So I routed the notch for the rudder. I use this template to allow the router bit, the bearing on it, to follow this pattern. And just to show what the rudder looks like. So this rudder is a single unit. It's actually used on ski boats, this style. And it's got a little fitting for grease. And so this is the part that will be set down in that notch in the hull. And this is almost a 1/2 inch thick, so it's a pretty thick piece of metal. And the way it works is so this part, of course, would go up on the bottom of the boat, and then this is the plate that will go inside the boat and slide down, and there's a notch in this plate to go over that fitting, and then it'll basically clamp down on the underside of the keel. And I'll have, since this is offset to port, because I'm using my prop will be a right hand turning prop, so you want to offset the rudder opposite of that, so to port. And but my keel is only it's 4 inches wide total, but 2 inches on either side of center, and this actually goes beyond that. So I'll have to put some blocking material under there. And so just to show what this looks like underneath. So that's what it turned out to be. And so what I did is I made this depth close to basically the thickness of this. And even though there's a slight slope, so on this edge over here, that rudder plate will stick up just a little bit, but I don't think that'll cause any problems. I'll see how it looks once I drill the holes. And the next step is to drill a hole to be, this shape. So I'm actually going to drill a little hole. I might drill 2 holes, and then essentially I need to make a notch for that, for this grease fitting to slide through. And then I'll use a hole saw. This hole saw here, which is 2 1/8, and this rudder shaft is 2 inches, slightly over, like 2.05 or something. And this is the drill guide that I'll use, and I'll put over here and make sure it's level. And then I'll use that to drill the small holes for the notch for the grease fitting, and then also for the hole saw. So I got the hole drilled for the rudder, and you can see I used, here's the hole saw that I used, and to do that I used this drill guide, and got it in position, and I used some wedges like this to level it and get it in position, and then I tacked it down with some composite nails, and then this drill guide, my drill of course goes on top and that goes down. That helps keep the drill level. And so it turned out pretty well. And actually before I did that, I drilled a smaller hole just above it, and then after I cut the bigger hole, then I used a file to go in there and just kind of widen this a little bit, because that's for the grease fitting here. So I'll show here in a second what the rudder looks like fit in there. So here's what it looks like fit in, and I'll have to drill 4 holes for bolts to go down, and then this is the piece I mentioned that'll go on the underside and clamp up on the underside of the keel. And so this should work really well. And I recessed it. It's not quite flush here, but I think I'm gonna leave it like that. That's what I'm thinking at this point. And for me to get this fit in, I had to do a little bit of fine tuning, a little bit of extra routing. So my template, I offset it just a little bit, like to this side, so I could route this edge a little bit more, and a couple of these corners need a little work. And I used a hand chisel too, to fine tune a few spots, but now it's laying flat and flush. So I think it's gonna work out really well. And positioned it so it's I think less than a 1/2 inch inside the edge of the boat, relatively close.